Had to double check to make sure we were live. YouTube did a little something different for me on the launch of it, so I appreciate you guys with your patience getting through that while I had to doubly confirm that we were indeed live. Good morning, Monday. Just one day left before Election Day here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you so much for waking up with us. We've got a couple of things I want to tackle this pre-election day. Obviously, a lot of people have really voted. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk a little bit about the state's economic picture heading into the election and what that possibly means for one of those questions on the state ballot. But also some concerns about the state's fiscal future going into the next few fiscal years. So we'll be touching a little bit on what some of the governor's budget office had to say as well. So those are just a few things we'll tackle. We may also delve a bit more into the former Illinois House Speaker's corruption case that continues today up in Chicago. So looking forward to seeing what comes out of court there. But we've got a lot to tackle here on this pre-election day with Illinois in Focus Daily. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with America's Talking Network. Get the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus. And be sure to get the newsletter and the headlines from thecentersquare.com. Can't believe that we've got less than a day here before polls open in Illinois. Welcome in. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. And it's pretty incredible, too, how many of you have actually early voted so far. Looking at the latest data from the Illinois State Board of Elections, it's showing that more than 2 million people of Illinois' 8 million voters that are registered have cast their ballot already. Again, pretty remarkable numbers when you really get down to it, and we'll take a look at that. And I also want some of you out there to tell me where you're voting in your county. Have you early voted? And we'll see if those numbers seem to match up with what we're looking at from the Illinois State Board of Elections. But clearly there's a lot on the ballot, all the way from your local, maybe a state's attorney's race, maybe a local county position race. Your local county also might have different referenda. Maybe they're asking you to increase the sales tax, which is something that's being done, I believe, in Champaign, and challenges of Champaign County actually using taxpayer funds, allegedly, to promote that particular ordinance or that particular referendum. You've also got referendum in 7 different counties where in, I believe, Madison County in particular. It's going to be interesting what the outcome is about asking if we should create a new state out of Illinois. New Illinois, or separate, or some kind of question along those lines. But then you've got the top of the Illinois referendum, where obviously a lot of questions get floated every year, every election. Some people may want to, have a question about term limits, or a question about different types of ethics reforms or fair maps, for instance. But those aren't the questions that are ahead of voters here in Illinois. Instead, in Illinois, the voters that are going to be heading to the ballot are going to be asked these particular questions. Let's go over to the Illinois State Board of Elections here. Election state advisory questions for the 2024 general election. If you click on that, should bring up some kind of document here where, if indeed you're able to access this stuff, you can pull this up and take a look for yourself. So again, at the State Board of Elections, you got different questions, right? So one question is, should any candidate appearing on the Illinois ballot for federal, state, or elected office, local office, be subject to civil penalties if the candidate interferes or attempts to interfere in an election worker's official duties? Yes or no? And again, these are just purely advisory. They are not binding by any law. So really, this is just a public poll of sorts. All right. So it's the Election Worker Protection and Accountability Referendum Act. All right. So should any candidate appearing on the Illinois ballot, federal, state, local office, be subject to civil penalties if the candidate interferes or attempts to interfere with an election worker's official duties? The next question, which is pretty controversial, there's been a lot of, as we say in the media landscape, ink spilled over this one. Should the Illinois Constitution be amended to create an additional 3% tax on income greater than $1 million for the purpose of dedicating funds raised to property tax relief? Yes or no? So again, a statewide question. It's a non-binding advisory question. This is not going to change the Constitution. All right. This is an interesting one, and as far as they're looking for, quote, property tax relief. If we look back at what former Governor Pat Quinn had to say about this, he said that the property tax relief elements, there's already a fund set up that could give property tax rebates. He estimates it would raise $4 billion. But you also got to think about who exactly is a millionaire. A millionaire could be that small mom and pop shop just down the street that's a mechanic, or a flower store, or a small boutique, or something along those lines. The small businesses that are sole proprietors, they are people who have income of over $1 million. But that money's going into payroll, that money's going into investments, into building the business, and so on. Regardless, that could lump those small businesses in. There's a lot of questions about, the idea of increasing taxes on millionaires, and millionaires might be able to better avoid that. Those are some of the arguments against the proposal here. But again, it's a non-binding proposal. And then the third one asks, shall all medically appropriate assisted reproductive treatments, including but not limited to in vitro fertilization, be covered by any health insurance plan in Illinois that provides coverage for pregnancy benefits without limitation on the number of treatments? So that's the third ballot question that you will be asked. And again, non-binding resolutions here for the state of Illinois. Let's pull up the numbers here of total statewide early votes. These are numbers that I just pulled from the Illinois State Board of Elections, and you can see this yourself. But I do want to see if any of you out there go ahead and shout out your county. And also tell me, if you're watching live here, all right, tell me if you've early voted. So one of the fun things, I guess, about doing this live is there's a bit of interaction that we can have at the live chat on the YouTube channel. So follow along each and every weekday morning. You can join us. But I'd like to hear from you as to, have you voted early, and what county are you in? And we'll take a look here. All right. So these are the top line numbers here from the Illinois State Board of Elections, statewide counts. All right. Of course, election day is tomorrow, but so far, of the 1.2 million people who requested a mail-in ballot in Illinois, 1.2 million people of the state's 8 million voters requested a mail-in ballot. 758,580 have returned their mail-in ballot. So they've actually put their mail-in ballot in the mail and it got back to the election authority, or they physically took their ballot to their election authority and turned it in. Of all of this, 1.3 million people have early voted in person. Then you get grace period voting, which is its own category, but 2.1 million people, 2,131,107. All right, so 2.1 million people of Illinois' 8 million voters have already cast their ballot. That's a number. I don't know if it's broken records. We'll have to find out later on today when they update the numbers again from over the weekend as to how that's changed. But let's go ahead and take a look here. For Cook County, how many people have voted already? You've got 414,000 people in Cook County that have already voted. Kankakee County, I'm going to the live chat over here and taking a look as to who has, what county you're in. Have you early voted? Let's do Kankakee County. Pull that up. If I can get my alphabet correct, there we go. Kankakee County, only 14,640 people have voted. Who else? Sangamon County, early vote. Sangamon County, the state capital is in Sangamon County. 31,761 early votes, which eclipsed how many early vote requests there were of 26,107. So 31,761 people have voted early in Sangamon County. All right, where else you guys at? Lake County. Let's take a look at Lake County again on the live chat. If you want to, take a look at this, you can, share with me what county you're in. We'll pull this up. Lake County. Wow, 145,313 people have voted early. Somebody in the chat room says they voted 2 weeks ago. Let's take a look at DuPage County. DuPage County, 216,000 people have voted early. Monroe County, another county shout out there in the live chat. Monroe County, you've got 7,831 voting early. Of course, this all depends on the population in your county, but clearly a lot of interest in this election. 2.1 million people have voted early in Illinois. That's pretty remarkable. So we'll have to obviously see what those numbers look like coming up here for about 10:30. They'll update that from the weekend. But tomorrow's election day. You've got, again, seats in Congress that are up for grabs. You've got state house seats, a handful of Senate seats for the Illinois Senate. Chicago and Cook County is going to be interesting because you've got the Cook County State's Attorney's race where Kim Foxx is no longer seeking that seat, so it opened it up. You've got a Democrat and you've got a Republican. Interesting stuff there, especially as I've seen and read some statements from the Republican State's Attorney candidate concerned about votes and mail-in votes in particular, getting improper ballots put into different envelopes that were from the primary instead of being for the general election. So some questionable things there. But also you've got the state's largest school district for the first time ever in Chicago is going to be voting for their own school board. And you've got a handful of seats that are up around this time, but a handful of seats that are going to be up in future elections. But the first time there, and this is going to be something along the lines of what Mayor Brandon Johnson allies would want to have, teachers union heavy presence on the Chicago School Board, or how exactly that's going to go with maybe some more moderate individuals on the school board. But on the national side, obviously, you've got President Donald Trump trying to get reelected. Vice President Kamala Harris sharing this message on the campaign trail in Michigan.
You who now know fewer rights than your mothers and grandmothers are standing up for freedom. None of these issues for you are theoretical. This is not political for you all. This is your lived experience, and I see you, and I see your power, and I am so proud of you. Can we hear it for our first-time voters?
And then you get former President Trump holding rally after rally where he wraps things up saying, Kamala, get out, you're fired, asking if you're better off now than you were 4 years ago, really going after the Kamala Harris and Biden administration migration policies. But he also took time to interact with some of the audience at a rally recently here. And I believe this was in, where was this? Was it Wisconsin? So yeah, it was in Milwaukee over the weekend. Here is former President Trump interacting with the audience a bit, asking somebody where they're from.
Where do you live? What part of Westchester do you live? Oh, well, that's nice.
She said Illinois.
Illinois. Illinois. You may have the worst governor in the entire country. Thank you very much. Yes, we do. He's terrible. They threw him out of the family business, so he decides to run for governor. I know the Pritzker family very well. I was partners with them, actually. They have some good people, but they threw him out because he was not very good, and he ends up running for governor because he's got money, but he's terrible. But I'm not allowed to use the fat word. That's the other word you cannot use. You are not allowed to use the fat word, so I will not do it, but that guy is disgusting.
Oh boy, politics in the age of 2024. Don't forget, you can go vote tomorrow. Polls open, I believe 6 o'clock in the morning. Check your local jurisdiction. We'll obviously talk more about it in the morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Happy Monday. Getting back to it. Illinois' finances have been put up on a pedestal by Governor J.B. Pritzker for several years, saying we have balanced budgets. He's talked about that, signing 6 balanced budgets in his time as governor. But you got to think about, we had COVID-19 and the pandemic and all of the federal tax dollars that came into a state like Illinois for several years. Billions and billions of dollars. But now a new report from the governor's office says there's going to be some bumpy road ahead to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. Welcome in to Illinois in Focus Daily on this Monday, November 4th, one day before the election. But this report from the governor's office of management and budget, we'll pull this up here and kind of read through this together. This was signed on Friday. The Governor's Office of Management and Budget, their annual economic and fiscal policy report for the General Assembly outlined the long-term economic and fiscal policy objectives of the state, along with the economic and fiscal policies intentions for the upcoming fiscal year and for the subsequent 4 fiscal years. The report also includes a comparison of the current fiscal year's enacted budgets with the current outlook for the fiscal year, along with fiscal and policy options. The Governor's Office of Management and Budget recommends for consideration by the General Assembly and the Governor to remedy any budgetary shortfalls in the current fiscal year or the 5 following fiscal years. So we're looking at a fiscal analysis, a forecast of sorts from the Governor's Office of Management and Budget. But this also comes as a new report from the Tax Foundation shows that Illinois' tax competitiveness with other states not doing as well as maybe some would want the state to do. So we'll just scroll down here in the Tax Foundation's chart to give a good idea of where Illinois stands in the tax competitiveness. And here we've got Illinois 37th overall. Corporate taxes, number 42. Individual taxes, number 13. Be interesting to see the breakdown here, and we will do that. Sales taxes, number 38. Property taxes, number 41. And UI taxes, number 43. So overall, Illinois' tax competitiveness is at 37. But let's take a look at the Governor's Office of Management and Budget, some of the things that they highlight here as we look at economic conditions, talking about the national economy, gridlock in the Three Bears economy, in which inflation remains a little too hot, the stock market is a little too cold, and the job market remains statistically about right. So you can kind of see, some of the ways they're characterizing the economy by going through there. But let's just go ahead and get to some of the projected deficits here, because that's the top story here. $3 billion in projected deficits. If we scroll down and get to the charts where they spell out what they're looking at ahead for the fiscal years in the future, Budget Stabilization Fund, they're hoping to increase that up to $2.5 billion by 2025. That's after putting more money into it year after year. But let's continue on to an overall chart here. This, I think, is what we want. All right, so general fund, state of Illinois, a walk down, all right? Fiscal year 2025, fiscal year 2026, 27, 28, 29, and 30. So it's got all the listed resources, estimates, of course, because we don't know how much exactly is going to be in fiscal year 2026. But you scroll down, and you can see here, had to hit the cough button. You can see here the future estimated deficit for 2026 is $3.1 billion. That's base funds. For just general funds, it's $3 billion. So that's the deficit we're looking at here. In future years, it grows $4.1 billion, upwards to $5 billion in a deficit. And in the years ahead, $5+ billion. So overall, we're looking at, again, projections here for the years ahead in the Illinois state budget. By 2030, we're looking at the possibility of a $5 billion annual deficit in the general revenue funds. And that's from the governor's office. Now, some are speculating that this is not going to, especially as the news comes out, be favorable to the idea of having a millionaire surcharge. WirePoint's already hopping on this, saying in their headline, Pritzker's new budget forecast $3 billion to $5 billion deficits make property tax relief for millionaire tax that unlikely, they say. So we may connect with Ted Dabrowski at some point later on today to get more of his thoughts on that. So we're looking at, again, $3 to $5 billion in deficits projected. But let's, again, look at the Tax Foundation, where they've got their tax competitiveness. As Illinois looks at the overall ranking of 37, when it comes to individual taxes, it's at number 13. Why is that? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at Illinois, more on Illinois. Click through, and it'll bring up more of what Illinois is looking at overall. Number 37, Illinois' tax system. Illinois performs well on the individual income tax component due to its single rate individual income tax. Again, a single rate. So that's why the Tax Foundation put Illinois higher on the individual tax. Now, if we would have changed that to a progressive tax back in 2020, I'm sure that the ranking would have gone down for the individual tax, just knowing how the tax foundation shares this information. They go on to say, however, on each of the other components, Illinois ranks in the bottom third of states due to high rates and relatively non-neutral tax structures. Notably, Illinois levies high income tax rates on businesses, in large part due to its personal property replacement tax, which imposes an additional rate of 2.5% on corporations and 1.5% on certain pass-through businesses above the base corporate and individual income tax rates, respectively. As a result, Illinois' corporate income tax rate is among the highest in the country at 9.5%. And you can read there, goes on further, the PPRT hurts Illinois' income tax component scores. Illinois' decision to replace its tangible personal property tax means Illinois scores better on the property tax components than it would if it continued to tax TPP. Goes on to discuss more about Illinois sale and property taxes, also high, and the estate tax and franchise tax hinder Illinois' property tax base score. There's been an effort to try to change the estate tax, the inheritance tax, the death tax, as other people call it, here in the state of Illinois, but it really hasn't gone much anywhere. So finally, Illinois' unemployment insurance tax structure also has substantial room for improvement. Currently, it's plagued by high rates, a wage base that is nearly double the federal wage base of solvency tax, and a long experience rating qualified period, among other shortcomings. So overall, we get the unemployment insurance tax ranked number 43. Property taxes were ranked 41. Sales taxes, 38. Individual income tax, again, ranked 13th. And then corporate tax, 42. Overall, 37 ranking. So we're at number 37 when it comes to tax competitiveness through the Tax Foundation's latest 2025 Tax Competitive Index. Interesting to see this, right? As we've got the budget office for the governor saying we're looking at 3.1 to upwards to $5+ billion in deficits, and this question about how they're going to raise more taxes possibly. But if they do this sales tax or this increased tax on millionaires, it would go to property tax relief. I guess I don't know exactly how this is going to work out. If it does ultimately get approved, the non-binding question, what the next steps are for that to get on the ballot for future elections to ask if indeed we should change the Constitution to some kind of progressive tax again. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We'll see. Obviously, a lot's going to be happening in the next 24 hours. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, wake up with us here. Illinois in Focus Daily, where you can get the podcast anywhere you get podcasts, get the news headlines from thecentersquare.com, and join us each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus. It's part of America's Talking Network. That's all I got for you guys on this Monday. Gonna get out of here, do some pre-election stuff. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning ahead of the election. And then we'll have all the election coverage focused on Illinois for you Wednesday morning. So be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us here with Illinois in Focus Daily as part of America's Talking Network.